So hello, everyone. Hello to all of our listeners. This is Nedd speaking. I'm leading our IBM business in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, Suisse romande. And today I'm very happy to welcome Pierre Kaufmann, who is our blockchain guru, our blockchain evangelist at IBM in Switzerland. Thank you, Pierre, for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me here.
So today we're having a discussion, or we want to have a discussion on blockchain. And for some of our listeners, this may be a familiar topic and they want to learn more, but for some of them, this may be a complete new topic. And so before we jump into the question of today's podcast, which is how blockchain can really be a game changer in business, I would love for you to be able to give us a quick introduction as to what blockchain is.
Okay, thank you. So blockchain is could be seen as, again, one of those nice buzzwords like artificial intelligence and cloud and other technological words that's coming now to the market. Since now a couple of years, let's say 10 years approx, blockchain made its way from being a pure technology play for something that really now impact business and would change business. So in a nutshell, blockchain is a way to store information forever, so to say, meaning that at a certain point in time, the information that you're looking at or that you're having, you can put it on what we call this blockchain, which is just a chain of blocks. And you can come back to this element at a later stage. It's given a little bit more advantage of what we used to know as a pure database, since none of the information that you will store can be changed. And this is what brings a trust into the information that has been stored. At a certain point in time, having the capability to look back of this information and being sure that this information has not been tampered by anyone. And this gives a great advantage on knowing if this information you're looking at is a truth or is it a fake or a changed data.
Thank you. This is very helpful. And so if I understand correctly, it's about trust. It's about having a single version of truth. Often in the general public and conversations, we tend to associate blockchain with crypto monies, with Bitcoins. Could you explain how blockchain is used in that context, but also how it really is more than just a Bitcoin, and I guess the reason why at least we are under the impression that in some cases it can allow to cut out some intermediaries in a transaction?
Yeah, for sure. And this is purely normal that let's say the word blockchain made is, let's say, big announcements back in let's say 2014, 2015, and up to the Bitcoin raise, which is raising again, I mean, today, which maybe reach, I mean, $1,000 one Bitcoin. Because the goal at that point was to be able to store information, meaning transaction, exchange of money, let's say virtual money, not real fiat money, in a place where nobody can change its value. And this is why we're talking about wallet, and this wallet, like normal wallet that you have where you put your banknotes, this cryptocurrency, Bitcoin is just one. There is many others that's storing the information that we can exchange between you, Lisa, and myself, and to be sure that nobody can change that. So that I cannot steal your money, you cannot steal my money, etc. So this is why we usually tend to associate blockchain with Bitcoin. Or with all of those cryptocurrency. But nowadays, there was a big change, is that the intrinsic capability of a blockchain to store information as such that this information is not tampered makes it very useful for businesses to say, well, if now I can be able to store some piece of information, let's say I deliver to you one good, and this good is compliant to the purchase order that we agree together, then you can come back to this point to say, Pierre, you did not deliver me this good because there is this part and this other part which is missing. And I said, no, no, no. If I'm looking at my own systems, I can be sure that I delivered you the right thing. And then we can look both together, yourself and myself, at the blockchain, and we can demonstrate and we can see, in fact, that what we agree, either I did not fulfill my obligation or you were not, being delivered the right product. So we can look at this single version of the truth, as you rightfully said, and we can be sure that we can have a system on which we agree and that neither yourself or neither myself I tempered. Meaning that at the end of the day, why should I keep on some systems, some part of my processes, some parts of my organization to do extra verification when I'm sending something to you or when you're receiving something from me? If both are in accordance, your organization and my organization are in accordance to look at this information which is in the blockchain that we trust because I haven't modified it and you cannot modify it neither, then we can be sure that, this is the right thing that we exchange together. And at the end of the day, then you can rethink about your organization, saying why I'm keeping, those verification steps again and again and again. And on myself, I can say, well, should I do 3, 4, 5 times the verification for sending you something? So this is one big advantage of the blockchain, is being able to cut cost in that dimension. On the other end, there is something which is also very, very interesting. If you think about now 2 organizations, yourself, myself, some other organization, because it's a team play at the end of the day. There is always someone which is before you and after you. And if we think about that, and if everybody can exchange the information freely, being sure that this information will not be changed, then we can find a way to, let's say, initiate some digital transformation by simply dropping the information that we are looking at into this blockchain.
That's very interesting. And it does sound like there would be so many use cases within organizations where there would be that need to optimize a process by having one single point of truth that anyone can rely on. It does sound like, and you said it actually, it's a team play. It relies on collaboration. Can you tell us a little bit about, because of that, how a typical blockchain project starts? Because I'm assuming you need to have all the players around the table, and effectively it is a collaborative effort. It's not one organization who would set up a blockchain project on their own. Am I right to assume that?
Yes, it's a yes and no. The value of the blockchain is again trust. So either you trust or you don't trust the people that provides you some services or some good, and the people that are buying goods or services from you don't trust you, and vice versa. This is where the blockchain is. And question of size. So there are multinational companies that are using blockchain, and there are small companies or less than 10 people that are using blockchain because they are part of the wider ecosystem. And this chain of value from one part to the other one, including financial services, including transportation, including industry-specific labor. So this is something that where blockchain can help. By that I mean, if you would start to have a pain point, a problem, the question would be, is this pain point solvable with blockchain? And remember, blockchain is only a way to store the information. So it will impact some of your processes, but it's just a part of a process. So blockchain is not the silver bullet. It helps you, giving you trust in your processes. So when you have a pain point, then you will see, would blockchain help me if I trust the information that one sent to me? If yes, then the project is something that would deliver value leveraging blockchain. The way it looks, as usually what we're doing, we're investigating if this pain point that you currently have, exchanging information between different organizations or between organizations in the same company, would be enabled or would be, let's say, get benefit from a blockchain project. And then when you start this blockchain project, you will say, yes, if I trust this information, I can go into a blockchain, I can start a blockchain journey. Then the question is, shall I join an existing ecosystem, or shall I build the blockchain for myself alone or for my organization? And again, as I said, it's a team sport. It brings a great value of having many actors around the table. And it's not because you start with 2 or 3 actors that this will be closed. I'm taking just here an example, a back of a company which is currently based in Geneva, which is called Farmer Connect. One of the questions is about they're working in the context of coffee trading, and everybody on the planet is drinking coffee. The question is this coffee or the supply chain of this coffee, can I trust it? Is the coffee that I'm buying at the other end of the planet the real coffee that I'm roasting and that I'm transforming into coffee, and then that I can sell on the market again? And one way how blockchain helps is bringing the traceability of the coffee from the farmer, the real farmer, smallhold farmer. It's not huge farms. Some have less than a couple of hectares of coffee. And you can track the journey of the coffee beans from the smallhold farmer down to the full supply chain, such that you can ensure at the end of the day that when you're drinking a coffee in some places, that this is a real coffee and that this coffee comes from this place. And what brings a game changer story in here is traceability is okay. The real value on top of it is that then you can tip back the farmer. You say, I love this coffee. This coffee is superb. What I'm doing now, I would like to thank the farmer and send him $2, $3, $4, $10, whatever the amount. And you can directly send this money through the farmer, through the blockchain, avoiding many intermediaries that will take 5, 10, 20% of the money that you're sending. So this is where the value of blockchain is. And the way the Farmer Connect started this project, they joined an ecosystem which is currently existing, which is called the IBM Food Trust, that enables this traceability from one place to another one.
This is a great example, and you demonstrated so well how, on the one hand, for the organization, the business, it optimizes the process, it cuts intermediary, but also for the end user, it creates transparency, right? And as you said, transparency then becomes the source for more trust, because you can actually see and check where things are coming from. Now, is it fair to say that, in quoting marks, the price to pay for that transparency all along, for keeping an information forever, as you said in the introduction, does it require to actually generate a lot of data? Because if I imagine keeping a record forever and a new version of a record and a new version of a record, it probably multiplies the data that I have to store. Is that correct? And if so, how is this addressed?
So the way this this is addressed is that we use, if we're stepping a little bit back, back in the 80s and in the 90s, I mean, IBM, like many other company, they sold a bunch of hardware equipment, software solution, databases, ERPs, and all of these solutions, vertical solutions to many customers. And now we see that many of the customers and the organization of the plant are over-equipped with IT. So the way of storing the information is we're not duplicating all of the information which are in this system. We're taking, as I said, a pain point, a problem, and at certain designated steps in the processes, we're extracting necessary information and storing this information. So we're not talking about storing units of information. And the largest blockchain on the world that we're managing currently, which is called TradeLens, I mean, the total storage of this blockchain can be on a smartphone. I mean, on a today's a smartphone. So it's not, let's say, petabytes and vast amount of information which is stored. So it's just a fraction of this information. We're storing the events, saying now the farmer gets his harvest done or her harvest done, and we're storing kind of a QR code with the location, the quality of the grain, etc., etc. So this kind of information, this is, I mean, peanuts compared to what we used to say. What we're doing is, on the other end, is when we have a system and we have and I mentioned TradeLens on purpose, when we have some system from various actors, we do not want to be yet another system on top. It's just a system that acts as a reference. So the blockchain would be the reference, the single version of the truth when there is either a dispute or when there is some money when there is some information to store or to get back. So the size of the information which is stored is not too much a big problem. On the other end, it's more usually a constraint which coming again, or a question which is coming again and again, is about how many transactions can you run on blockchain? Because we mentioned at the very beginning of this podcast, Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, when you issue a transaction, you need to wait an hour for this transaction to be validated. And this in certain business model, this is not acceptable at all. I mean, you need a transaction when you're transferring money to be sure that the money is transferred immediately, or that the payment is okay, and that you can finalize a contract or whatever you're in. We used to see that now the modern blockchains compared to the Bitcoin blockchain are being able, I mean, to handle, let's say, thousands, tens of thousands times more transaction that currently Bitcoin is able to handle. So by this, I mean that the information which is floating again, the question is usually, shall I store this information into the blockchain? And what would be my value of storing this information in the blockchain, me as part of the blockchain ecosystem? And what would be the person which is before me and the person that sits after me in this ecosystem? Will they get also a benefit? And this is usually where, coming back to the point of the question that you asked earlier regarding projects, is, shall I join an existing ecosystem? Shall I build my ecosystem? How does these elements are working? And this is where we as IBM or any other can help moving forward, trying to shape what would be the best case in your situation.
Thank you so much, Pierre. And I think this is the perfect transition to, I guess, the last question, which I always tend to ask, which is, if you had just 3 short recommendations to give to our listeners who would like to embark or at least consider a blockchain journey, what would those recommendations be to get started?
So the first one would be you need to think about what is the use case, and by consequence the business case which is behind. Do I really have, one of the questions is, do I really have a problem that is touching, that could be solved if I can trust the system, a better system, or a system of my partners? So when you're entering into that space, this means that there is a potential for a blockchain project, and you can get some savings out of it. The second question, never ever think that blockchain will solve all the problem, because it's like any other technology. It does not solve any problem as such. It just helps you building a better organization, a better set of systems, and a better set of relationship with your partners. And there may be a last point is do not underestimate what blockchain can do for you. You should know that, I'm just giving you again this another example, that some blockchain are currently managing 60% of the global GDP of this planet on a single blockchain. And this is one which is covering the ocean shipping carriers that are currently working as competitor on the very, very same blockchain. So it's about shifting your mind, saying, I need to work with the people which are in the same industry like me. Even if we are competitor, we can gain benefit from blockchain. And if you have any question, turn back to me, and I will be pleased to evaluate with you if blockchain would be a solution for your business.
Thank you so much, Pierre. And I think this is definitely the #1 advice. If you have any questions, any recommendations, any ideas that you'd like to share with us, please contact Pierre or myself directly. And hopefully this was an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about blockchain. I learned a lot, so thank you so much, Pierre. It was very interesting and I think insightful. It's one of those topics where everybody knows the name, but very few people are able to explain what it is, how it can be used, what the value is. And I think hopefully after this podcast, our listeners will all be able to answer those questions. So thank you so much, Pierre, for being with us. And I hope to welcome you back in another podcast very soon.
Thank you very much, Lisa. My pleasure.